Teeth are very important. They're important to big people like your parents who are here with you today, and they're important to little people like you. They're important to old people, and they're important to young people. Why, they're important to living creatures that aren't even people at all. They're important to animals too. In one of the classic Aesop fables, there was a very important set of teeth. The lion and the mouse. Once there was a lion sleeping under a tree, and a little mouse came up to the lion and decided he would rather climb over the lion than walk all the way around with his little mouse legs. Now the mouse got to the very top of the lion when the lion woke up and caught the little mouse in his big paws. "Oh, little mouse, you have made a mistake," said the lion, "for now I will eat you." "Please don't eat me," said the mouse, "and maybe someday, because you spared my life, I will be able to repay the favor." "Oh, little mouse," laughed the lion. He laughed so long and so loud. "Little mouse, I will let you go because you have made me laugh, and because you would be barely a mouthful anyway. So off you go, and don't let me catch you again." The next day, the lion was sleeping under the very same tree when a hunter came upon him, and before the lion could wake up and eat the hunter had caught him up in a net. And the hunter knew that he couldn't drag in this lion all by himself, so he went off to go get some help. "Help!" called the lion. "Please, someone help me. I'm trapped." And he started to cry, big lion tears. He heard a little voice, "I will help you," and saw the mouse. "How could you help me, little mouse?" "Don't worry, I will." And he felt the little mouse crawling all around on him, and he heard the little sound of teeth chewing through the net. And after a little while, the lion could stretch and rip apart the net with the rest of the net with his claws. And so the little mouse repaid the lion's favor and saved his life. Now, teeth are very important to the animals. Why, some animals are even dentists. The Egyptian plover bird, also known as the crocodile bird, eats the little bits of food left between the teeth of crocodiles and works as a dentist. Another animal that's a dentist is Dr. DeSoto in the story by William Steig. Dr. DeSoto, this dentist, did good work, so he never had a shortage of customers. The ones close to his size, the moles and the gophers, they could sit in his regular dentist chair. But large animals had to sit on the floor, and he had to climb up a ladder up to their mouths. Very large animals had a special room, and Dr. DeSoto was hoisted up to their mouths by his assistant, who happened to be his wife. The large animals really liked Dr. DeSoto because he was able to climb right into their mouths. And he wore his boots to keep his feet dry, and with his little tiny fingers and his little drill, they could barely feel any pain. Being a mouse, he simply couldn't have any animals as customers that were dangerous to mice. Whenever the doorbell rang, he and his assistant went to the window and leaned out to see who was there. They wouldn't let in even the most timid-looking cat. One day they went to the window, and there they saw a very well-dressed gentleman fox who had a flannel bandage around his jaw. "I cannot help you," said Dr. DeSoto. "Sir, can't you read my sign?" "Yes, but please, I beg of you, have mercy on me. I am in so much pain." And he wept so bitterly, it was pitiful to see. "Just a moment," said Dr. DeSoto. "What should we do?" he said to his wife. "That poor fox." "I say we risk it," she said, and buzzed him in. The fox came up the stairs in a flash. "Oh, thank you," he said, "but beg of you mercy." He fell onto his knees, clutching his mouth. "I beg you, do something. I'm in so much pain." "Sit on the floor, sir," said Dr. DeSoto, "and remove the bandage, please." He got the ladder and climbed up to the fox's mouth. "Whew, whew," said Dr. DeSoto, for the fox had a very rotten bicuspid, an unusually bad breath. "This tooth will have to come out," he said. "But don't worry, we can make you another one." "Just stop the pain," said the fox, cringing. However, the fox realized he had a very tasty morsel in his mouth indeed, and his jaw began to quiver. "Keep it open," said Dr. DeSoto. "Wide open," said Mrs. DeSoto. "Now, just don't worry," he said to the fox. "I'm going to give you some gas for the pain." Pretty soon, the fox was off in dreamland. Yummy," mumbled the fox. "I love them raw, with just a pinch of salt and a dry white wine." They could guess what the fox was dreaming about. Mrs. DeSoto gave her husband a pole to pry the fox's jaw open. Now, Dr. DeSoto wrapped the extractor around the tooth and tugged on the extractor with his wife with all of their might. The little mice pulled out the tooth with a sucking sound, and there it hung from the wire. "I'm bleeding," the fox gasped when he woke up. Dr. DeSoto rushed up the ladder and popped in some gauze right into the hole. "The worst is over," said Dr. DeSoto. "And be here tomorrow. I will put the new one in, but be here at 11 sharp." The fox, still a little woozy from the gas, stumbled on home. On his way home, he wondered if it wouldn't be too shabby of him if he made a meal of the DeSotos after the job was done. After office hours, Dr. DeSoto helped Mrs. DeSoto make a model tooth out of pure gold and polished it just to fit the fox's tooth hole. "Raw with salt indeed," said Dr. DeSoto. "Why, how foolish of us to have a fox." "He didn't know what he was saying," said Mrs. DeSoto. "And besides, why would he hurt us? We're helping him." "Because he's a fox," said Dr. DeSoto. "They are very wicked creatures indeed." Once the DeSotos went to bed, they found they couldn't sleep. "Should we let him in tomorrow?" said Dr. DeSoto. "Well, I don't know," said Mrs. DeSoto. Dr. DeSoto said, "Well, once I start a job, I have to finish it. That was the way my father did it." So they stayed up and they talked and they talked until they had a plan. "That will do the trick," said Dr. DeSoto, and a minute later he was snoring. The next morning at 11 sharp, the fox was there. He was feeling not a particle of pain. When Dr. DeSoto got into his mouth, he snapped his jaws shut just for a moment and then opened them up wide again and laughed. "Just a joke," he said. "Let's be serious," said Dr. DeSoto. "We have work to do." And Mrs. DeSoto lugged the big, heavy gold tooth up to the fox's mouth. Dr. DeSoto popped the tooth into the fox's mouth and attached it to the teeth right next to it. "Oh, I love it! feels so good, said the fox, stroking it with his tongue. Oh, and then he thought to himself, I really shouldn't eat them, but how can I resist? We're not finished, said Dr. DeSoto, holding up a jug of a solution. I have here a remarkable new preparation just invented by Mrs. DeSoto and me. With just one application, you will never have to have tooth pain again. Never another treatment. How would you like that? Oh, of course I would like that, said the fox. Please, please give me this treatment. He hated any kind of personal pain. You will never have to see us again, said Dr. DeSoto. No one will ever see you again, thought the fox to himself. Now, Dr. DeSoto climbed up the ladder and walked into the fox's mouth with the preparation and started painting each tooth. He hummed as he worked. Mrs. DeSoto stood on top of the ladder and pointed out all the spots that he had missed. The fox looked very happy. Now Dr. DeSoto told him, close your mouth and hold it shut for at least a full minute. So the fox did. And then, once the minute was up, he tried to open his mouth, but he couldn't, for all of his teeth were stuck together. Oh, I forgot to tell you, said Dr. DeSoto, I should have mentioned. You won't be able to open your mouth for at least a day. But just think, no tooth pain again, ever. The fox was stunned. He looked at Dr. DeSoto, he looked at Mrs. DeSoto, but what could he do other than mumble, "Thank you very much," through his clenched teeth, and try and leave with a shred of dignity, until he stumbled down the stairs as he left. Mrs. DeSoto kissed Dr. DeSoto, and they took the rest of the day off. Now remember, when you get home tonight, brush your teeth. You need to take care of them, even though the dentist is really nice.